lot of times I work with men who are like on paper look fine, but internally are dying on the inside. They are overworked. They're not broken. They've just over adapted. Best way I can describe it is sometimes success can be a disguise. They could be doing so well, but then internally it's chaos, exhaustion. The expectations are so high, whether they set it for themselves or maybe society does or their family does. And even though we use that term like high functioning, like oh they're a high functioning person, that doesn't always mean healthy. Burnout isn't from doing too much; it's from never being honest. I know for black men, it's not always safe to be vulnerable. It
Yeah.
doesn't always feel like you can have that safe space to do it. Men don't necessarily need to be fixed; they need to feel safe, and that's where journaling can come into play because the pages aren't going to judge you.
Good, and welcome back to another episode of Built Different. Today I'm excited because we have someone who's here who might help us all get our mind right. Today I have Jamaal Simmons. He is a licensed social worker. He's going to break down a lot for us around mental health, something that we all have to manage throughout our course of our lives and as entrepreneurs and builders. Jamal, thanks for joining me today. How you feeling, man?
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. And I appreciate you reaching out. So one of our previous Built Different guests connected Jamal and I, and so now we are here. We're about to share his story and his journey with you. So Jamal, let's get right into the origin story of how you got into mental health and what made you want to focus on men's health, addiction, and trauma.
Sure. I got into it. I went to grad school, went to Morgan State.
Nice.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Really unique like environment. And That's when I got into it. I got into like social work at first, and I was kind of seeing what I liked around there. And I was like, I really want to get into mental health. At my work, I got a mentor who I still see today. We used to work together at Sinai Hospital, and she's in private practice, and I was asking more questions about that, diagnoses, and all those things. So while I was in school, I was also kind of getting outside extra schooling, in other words. But yeah, did that, graduated. Let's see. After that, I worked at or while I was in grad school, I worked at Man Alive Lane Treatment Center in Baltimore, it's near Micah. Then I internshiped at Baltimore VA, Veterans Administration, and then went into Perry Point VA, that's just north of there. Um,
Gotcha.
and in 2021, I went to private practice and have been in private practice ever since then. And I love it. Like, I don't see myself going back. Maybe contractually, but that's it. I enjoy this freedom. I enjoy the flexibility.
You sound like a real entrepreneur there, right? Most
Yeah.
entrepreneurs don't start their business just to get rich. They want freedom and they want control over the outcomes that they generate, right? For their clients, for their customers. So cool. So what sparked you to go and do it solo? Like why private practice for you?
For me, yeah, a lot like what you just said, the freedom, just being able to kind of like work my own schedule. Myself personally, I do have ADHD. I have ADHD inattentive type, and it just for me, being able to have my own schedule to work with my own energy and how my brain works, just I'm much more efficient. Yeah,
That's nice. That's great. That's great awareness. Is that something that you talk to? I know we'll get into this more, but is that
yeah,
something you talk to your clients about?
yeah. I talked to them about it. Because I mean, my main specialties, going back a little bit to the first question, like my main specialties are men's issues, addiction, ADHD. A lot of times I work with men who are like on paper look fine, but internally are dying on the inside.
Gotcha.
They are overworked. They're not broken. They just over adapted, and that's when I kind of got into that line of work as something I really care about, I'm really passionate about, and I can do it on my own terms, which is why I like private practice. I can um, do it the way that I think is right. Versus sometimes I've worked in other places where I don't agree, and I'm like, I don't think that's clinically the right thing to do. So at least here I can do what's authentic to me and have that integrity.
So now that you mentioned it, is there something that you can talk about, like something that you didn't agree with or that you had a different outlook on?
Sure. Yeah. So won't name the place, but yeah. Before there were some clients I worked with, and essentially they were in this facility, and we had a team, and they were thinking like, okay, you know what? Let's I think this person should go over here. We think that they need this type of treatment. I disagreed, and I brought evidence to why I disagreed. I was like, well, they meet these requirements, they have these things. Why not send them here? Why are they being denied for this?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, ultimately, they ruled over it and they said like, okay, we're going to go this direction. It didn't work out. And then that's something I had to deal with and kind of process later on.
It didn't
Uh,
work out for the patient.
yeah, it did not work out for them. Yeah, there was definitely some like guilt, and I had to really work through that as I did
Mm-hmm.
try. On the other hand, the other parts of the team that I'm aware of, I'm not sure they've even thought about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
So I apologize. Will you finish?
oh yeah, you're good. I was just gonna say sometimes you just got to go with your morals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's big. That's big in business, right? You need trust, and you got to be able to trust yourself, and or other people won't pick up on trusting you as well. So, but
Yeah.
you mentioned that Morgan was a unique experience. Are you from Baltimore, and how does Baltimore inform like your practice and your approach to mental health?
Yeah, not originally from Baltimore. I don't know if you know where Ocean City is, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, born my hometown is like Salisbury, Maryland. It's
yeah.
like right there as you kind of pass by it to go to Ocean City. So you may miss it, you may not, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's there. Moved over to this side of the bridge, and went to Morgan State, which that was a big change because at first I went to for my undergrad I went to Salisbury University, and
Right.
then going over to Morgan, which is like HBCU, like fantastic. I love that. I love
Great.
that. Like, yeah, it was like being in its own like um. I was gonna say, ironically, that movie came out around that time, but it was like being in like Wakanda. It was just like, oh, this is cool. Like, yeah, yeah,
That's what's up, man. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, what did you pick up on from once you started living in Baltimore and practicing in Baltimore? How does that impact how you approach mental health, how you approach your clients, and understanding maybe their surroundings and their environment?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is just really from like a black perspective. I mean, Salisbury University, although it's had some like sort of past times, it's a white university, very
Mm-hmm.
different. The education they teach on is very white based, which was very noticeable to me when I first got there, and I was like, oh, we're gonna do this,
Mm-hmm.
and um, don't get me wrong, I made it through. There was some struggles there, but going over to Morgan, it was much easier, like a much easier transition. Like people like got it, I got it. We kind of all like it was like more like we understood each other. There was an underlying like understanding versus at SU. It's like all right, like sometimes you have to be aware and careful. Like what do they mean by that? Where are they coming from?
So so when how did you know the difference in what did it just not seem inclusive in what they were teaching around like mental health and or was it the instructor or the professor and how they delivered it or the book's bias? What did you pick up on?
Good question. It's I would say like I will say some of the books tried to be inclusive. They tried, um, but really to be like, I mean, and I feel like some of the professors did have some training in that, like cultural sensitivity. But then we like going to HBCU, they it was just automatically there. It was like natural. It didn't feel forced, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like it felt less forced at Morgan versus Salisbury. I mean, keep in mind, like it's still great school. It's just that part of it, um, really like I felt like kind of, kind of, what's the word? Kind of put up a wall between myself and the client versus at Morgan. It's like no, you're connected. We're all connected, kind of thing. It,
Got you.
yeah, like what you do matters and what they do matters and how like you're all connected in that sense versus very more of a separate kind of way.
I'm just thinking about how the experience is. So I did some work in the mental health space as a PRP for
Oh, yeah, me too.
children.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about that, like how you do have to be inclusive and like if there is a wall, like kind of just the difference between somebody talking at you and talking with you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. I used to do PRP before I like that was kind of the spark that kind of got me into doing like therapy because I was just like, oh man, like I actually like this job. I like doing PRP. Like I think I was at the year mark and I was just like, wow, I really actually enjoy this. Maybe I should keep going. Um, but yeah, it's very different, and you can kind of tell in how clients reacted to certain people, and
Mm-hmm.
that depends on race, gender, so on and so forth. But like there is that difference, like talking to versus like with.
Got you. Got you. So this is something that a lot of people think they wonder when they have therapists or when they think about therapy, what's going on with my therapist? So what is my therapist actually doing? So can you tell us a bit about like what your typical week looks like in your practice, and where does your time go versus where you wish you had more time to spend in your business?
Yeah, yeah. Good question. So my week, it's pretty busy. Let's see. Just have context. Married, four kids. I mean, busy. Like
Mm-hmm.
like like generally it's mostly making sure they get to school and all that stuff. Once they're all out for the day, which I mean, thank goodness they're in school. It makes it
Mm-hmm.
way easier. The youngest is in school, and like that makes it, like I said, it's just once he got into school, then I was like, okay, I can actually get moving, get some more momentum. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what I do is I'll look at the go on my laptop, look on the calendar, kind of see what's going on, get myself a little bit organized. Um, I go through the the caseload, just kind of view it really quickly. I may do some advertising here or there. I may work on the website a little bit here and there. Um, I mean, I will say my least favorite part is taxes. I mean, having to sit down, oh, it's the worst. I get no dopamine from that, so it's difficult for me to do them.
That's
Uh,
most people.
yeah, good grief. I mean, yeah, it's hard. But yeah, I'll do that. I do schedule some self-care time, so I may actually, like, let's say a client like cancels or reschedules, which is generally a rule about that, which I discuss with the client, like reschedule within the week, or so on and so forth. I may take like a nap, like
Mm-hmm.
just something to get my brain up and going again. Because I've noticed that like when I'm working throughout the day, my brain's doing fine. Once it gets a certain time after 9, I tell my clients, I'm like, after 9, my brain is like trash. It's just not
Mm-hmm.
gonna. I'm just not as fast as I normally would be. Um,
Got you.
so yeah, I try to keep within that schedule. Also, I
Uh,
do see. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. I was gonna say I also do schedule in new people. New people that come to see me, they schedule with me. I may do that. I have a billing guy that I work with. He helps me out with that, and so we kind of go back and forth that we need to deal with billing because insurance is a big thing too. Um, I mean, as much as it can be helpful, sometimes it can be a hindrance at times. So
mm-hmm.
that's why I have him help me out. But yeah, that's generally typically the week. Then after a certain time, I'm like with the kids and doing the family stuff, which is nice because I work at home, so love it. Yeah.
Got you.
Mm.
So you kind of went into what my next part of that question was going to be. About how many clients do you see a week on average?
Oh, I would say about like about 26 on average. About yeah. So yeah, about 26 on average. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Um, it ranges from like people who I see weekly, bi-weekly,
Mm-hmm.
monthly. Um, Occasionally I have some people that I see like every other month that they just need to check in, especially for addiction. I try to make sure um, to I try to make sure to have that time available for them if they just need to check in because sometimes the self-help groups don't work for everyone or certain ones don't work, and so just having someone to check in with their sobriety is like helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just like every other month, like, hey, like, how you doing? Like, oh, I'm doing well or not so well.
So you're like a secondary sponsor for them in a sense.
In a sense, yeah, yeah. I try to at least offer that to them because um, addiction it's difficult and it's difficult to
Mm-hmm.
get through, and getting that extra support is sometimes just the needed step to get beyond that to actually get into recovery.
Got you. Got you. So that's about five a day. And what people I think is underestimated in the therapy space is that that's five people a day who you are now taking on their energy. And so I can see how tiring. So how does that impact you? So
Yeah.
how do you walk away from that as a business owner, as a father, as a husband?
Yeah, yeah. Great question. It's a lot of I do a lot of self care practices to kind of help keep me on task. For example, meditation. I meditate about 20 minutes every day in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I try to get some exercise, some walking, naps. try to take care of myself. Usually have water like right here, kind of ready. Um, if I'm not feeling it, I may have to reschedule a person because sometimes like mentally I'm not in the headspace. Um, someone could say something and it's like, wow, it kind of hit me, and I'm like, hang on, I need to kind of like reset myself. So I'll do that. Also, I see my own therapist as well. Um, as much as I try to, encourage people to see therapy, I'm like, it's hard for me to do that when I'm not seeing my own therapist. So that keeps me on track as well. But yeah, just making sure that I'm all balanced and that everything's
Balance.
going well.
Good, good. So you mentioned something that is the first time me hearing about being over adapted. So can you tell me about what being over adapted is, and then how you help men process being over adapted, or just kind of putting on the mask of I'm fine, and they're just going out there and approaching the world. And you mentioned uh, in the pre-show form, which I thought was cool, like men just trying to white knuckle their way through things. We don't ever want to hear that for a lot of guys, right? Because we know we still have to show up in the world. We still got to show up and perform. But how do you help them through that? And what is being over adapted as opposed to being whatever the extreme of that is, overwhelmed or
Yeah.
overworked? Yeah.
Sometimes, like, best way I can describe it is sometimes success can be a disguise. They could be doing so well, like I said, so well on paper, but then internally there it's chaos, exhaustion. Uh, the expectations are so high, whether they set it for themselves or maybe society does or their family does, whomever does, and even though we use that term like high functioning, like, oh, they're a high functioning person, that doesn't always mean healthy.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the over adapted part. And then what was the second part to your question?
How do you help them? Like, can you give me a few steps on like how you help them manage being over adapted or breaking through the mask of just everything being fine?
Yeah, yeah. One of the biggest things I try that I say I try to work with is especially when it comes to burnout, because burnout is so like I mean so prevalent in men because of those very high expectations. I try to say like burnout isn't from doing too much; it's from never being honest, and that's being honest with yourself, being honest with your family, being honest with your work. Because sometimes you may have to say like, "Hey, I need to step away. I can't do this today," and be okay with that. Sure, you may get some pushback, but I mean, if you that's what you need to have, that's what you need to have. It's having those honest conversations with your wife, and talking about boundaries, how to work in the relationship, how to move forward, what's reasonable, what's not reasonable, or having those conversations with your kids. Say like, hey, like you do this, like if you want, if you're here, we do these things. We work together as a family to keep the house running, and so on and so forth. I say that because I just had that conversation with the kids not too long ago. But but yeah, it's about that honesty and being authentic and really checking in with yourself besides just saying fine, which fine is like one of the most dangerous sentences for men.
Got you. So let's dig into that a little bit, checking in with yourself because I definitely know that burnout is real, and a lot of men don't take time to check in. So can you give me just like a quick this might be selfish for me, but I know a lot of other guys who have their own business. What are the steps to checking in, or like what does it look like to check in? Are there like some different little mechanisms? You can give me just like three so people can walk away and be like, all right, I can be better after this episode.
Sure, yeah, yeah. Definitely. The first thing I would say is identify. Really, sitting down to identify. That's why I do the meditation practice in the morning. That's part of it. Other part of it is ADHD. That could just be is kind of helpful for me to practice that, um, just on that basis. But then, just identifying what's going on.
Okay.
Just being up for me, getting up in the morning, having that like it automatically turns on for me, so I don't have a choice whether it turns on or not. It just automatically the Amazon's like meditation. It's like 20 minutes. I'm like, all right, let's do this.
Nice.
Um, and um, and I just sit there for a moment, like, all right, like where am I feeling in my body? What am I feeling? Emotionally, what am I feeling? Maybe it's spiritually. Like, what am I feeling? Am I feeling like maybe there's some ties there that like kind of like you mentioned earlier, like there's you hear people's trauma, and sometimes you can pick up that trauma. So maybe there's some ties to cut, or maybe there's some things I need to forgive myself for, like oh, I'm feeling some guilt about this. Maybe I need to forgive myself, or maybe I need to talk about it. Maybe I need to deal with this situation instead of avoiding it. Um, and That's kind of leads to the second thing is the actual doing part. Um, is the action. Because once you can identify, you can actually do something. So let's say, for example, let's say, for example, I'm feeling anger. So, or I feel anger, like even irritation, like something. I think about like, okay, I identify that. What does that mean? What am I angry about? What am I irritated about? And once I can figure it out, I can kind of focus on like, all right, is this something I need to accept, or do I need to change? Um, and then that's yeah. So I'm trying to give you a example recently, but oh yeah, I was talking with someone. And keep in mind, I'm not a some people think that therapists are like walking lie detectors. Most aren't. No, it's not true. Will I catch some? Sure. I mean, some people are really good at lying to themselves. So I mean, they sound really believable. I mean, I can't help that, but I do the best I can. But usually, when I get a little irritated, it's the during a session that's my BS meter. I'm like, something's off. Like something's going on here, and so I may address it. I may not. I may put a pin in it and just kind of wait. Just depends. But first, I have to identify it. Then I
Got
can
you.
decide what to do with it.
Got you. And this is something that I practice, that I talk to a lot about, other people who I work with and just people for their lives. So the habit of writing things down, or the practice of writing things down. People don't write, and like you have to write with your hand, like with a pen and a pencil, because writing is a thinking exercise and it helps you process things. Is that something that you implement for some people? Like it's cool to type in
Yeah.
your phone and your notes, and if that's what you got to do, you got to get it out. But
Yeah.
the actual practice of writing is very therapeutic, and it helps you with that identification process. So is that something that you would recommend, or should I just shut up and stop saying it?
Oh no, no, absolutely, all day. Say it all day. I mean, because I agree with you because like I mean, if you don't have a pen and paper, phone works. I mean, I have phone notes as well, like voice notes or like just voice to text notes. But if I'm able to like sit down and actually write, it's different. It's a very different headspace. Plus, when you're writing, this is someone who this is something from someone who did was it occupational therapy told me, especially about writing. It just sticks in your head better, and it's true.
Yes.
Your writing, it sticks in your head better. Even still, even though like we have so much technology, I may use AI to do some notes for me. I still have my notepad right here. Like I'm just like, oh, like let me just use this real quick, write this down. I can remember it. Um, I mean, there's some times where I haven't seen a client for like maybe a year or so, then it comes back to me. But that's because I just kind of scribble and write it down.
Nice, nice. Yeah, because journaling, a lot of men think journaling is not a thing for men, so
Yeah, they
they
do,
kind of they
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
discard it. That's why I say just the practice of writing, however you want to describe it, I think is pretty healthy. But and speaking of that, let me ask you, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that men specifically may have around therapy and how they show up in the world and how they manage themselves?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of times men see or like can see therapy as weakness. Um, that can happen in like military culture, for example, and generally in black culture in general, it can be seen as that. I mean, my own father, like I love him, but I'm just like he just does not he doesn't see his own mental illness and what's going on with him, and I'm like, you have ADHD. I know, I can see it. Like it's very clear. He's like, nah, nah, nah. But I mean, once it was a survival thing, which on
Yeah,
contextually, I can get it. It's like, oh, like he was dealing with some different things generationally that I don't have to deal with because this already been dealt with. So I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Um, there's a sense of like having to survive, and so you don't have time to worry about the mental health part. Um, but really, I mean, even going back to the journal part, I mean, men don't necessarily need to be fixed. They need to feel safe. And that's where journaling can come into play because the pages aren't going to judge you. Um, even if you need to use voice to text, it's not going to judge you. You can speak clearly and openly without having to worry about judgment, ridicule, shame, guilt. Um, and that's a lot of what men need is that safe space to actually have those conversations and really talk about what's actually going on. What are they actually feeling?
yeah. It's interesting you say that because in 2025, the use of AI for therapy as like something to confide in went up a
Yeah.
lot. I don't know what the percentage points are, but
Yeah.
because it's a safe space, like the AI is not going to judge you. So is that something that you would recommend? Maybe I'm not gonna say call it a last resort because I don't want to answer for you,
Yeah.
but is that something that you would even put on the radar for your clients?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, I now there is a spectrum. On one end, can it be dangerous? Yes. There have been some cases where that's led to like more dangerous behavior. Absolutely. On the other hand, as long as you're using it responsibly, knowing that it's like this is an AI, this is a computer, it's just supposed to help you process your emotions, it can actually be a very helpful tool in therapy. Um, I've had clients, after I saw my clients using that, I was like, wait a minute, maybe I should do this for my own therapist. And so, which I have been, not always consistently, but trying. And where they will prepare for their session using AI, like ChatGPT, for example, and they'll come and prepare knowing what they want to work on, what to work on next. I'm just like, great. It can be a fantastic tool. Um, and I get it. Sometimes for some people, they can't afford therapy. Therapy is not always like accessible to everyone. So sometimes AI is what you have. I'm like, hey, sometimes like it is that last ditch resort. Might as well give it a shot.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
it's a safer place. It's at least it feels like a safer place.
got you. So
Mhm.
thinking about that now, I've had a therapist before a few years ago when I was working with the government. And do you think there's a stigma for men around who their therapist is? Like they may be comfortable with using AI, but some men may or may not feel comfortable with having another man as a therapist. Or a lot of our safe space may have been like our grandmothers or our grandparents, so we prefer to have a older woman or something like that. Is there any stigma around it? Anything, any common things you see that happen?
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely saw that. I mean, it's still a thing. I mean, some men prefer women, some men prefer other men. I don't think there's anything right or wrong. I think it's good to get different perspectives. So I mean, like by all means, if you have a preference or you want to try something outside of your preference, why not? But yeah, there's definitely that because I've had some people come into therapy, like other black men. It's just like we're talking. They're like you get this. Like they can say something. It's like I know exactly what they're talking about. Versus other therapists may not. They may have to be like, wait a minute. Oh wait, this has to do with the black experience. Let me think about that and translate it. Versus like I'm like, nope. I feel exactly what you're saying and
Yeah,
and so that can be so powerful in a session when you can just have where you can just kind of talk freely and be like, oh, they know what I'm saying, and I think that's important. um, you really want to connect with your therapist, which that can be hard to find because not all the time will you get the right therapist right away. um, but I mean, doing some looking into it, research, and kind of hearing more about them, that can really help you find the right person. Because usually, when you find the right person, it just isn't almost like a natural vibe between the two, and it just
yeah.
works out really well.
Yeah. And I know like a lot of platforms, they have virtual platforms so you can see who your therapist is. But the biggest thing that brings visibility to most businesses today is using content, right? So you're not going to know who these therapists are, but you can go look them up and then you say, oh, they got a YouTube channel, they got TikTok, Instagram. Do you use any of that and how are you using it to help build your platform and share your insight around mental health?
Yeah, I do. I would say the first thing I'd use is like psychology today. That's just a general. That's just a generally really good system to find a therapist.
Okay.
That's the main one I used for a long time. Then I started to expand and go to like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, um, probably and the website. That was another big step for sure because then people like know like, oh, this is where I can go and I can find out more about this person. Um, they can also see sometimes I may have a video or two. And it's like, oh, okay, like I see who they are. They kind of get a vibe of me off the video. If they like the vibe, great. If they don't, it's like, okay, that's cool. Um, but yeah, I've also noticed like after completing my book, it's called ADHD Life Skills 101. I also noticed that some people find me through that as well because they'll read the book and they're like, oh, you know what? Like they're in Maryland. Like let me talk to them. So I didn't know, I didn't realize that having a book like that would actually help bring in people, but I was like, oh, great, so that's just one extra tool that that I didn't know, but now that I use.
All right, let's talk about that because I'm a big fan of it. So,
Oh, thanks.
a part of congratulations because a lot of people want to write books and less than 5% or so people are ever going to write a book. So, congratulations to you for finishing that. That's a big deal. And
Thank you. Yeah.
what people overlook, to be an authority, it is helpful to be an author. The word author is in authority, so you can claim authority over at least some part of your thought process, and you've done that in your book. So, I, I've learned through some other coaching and business and stuff like having a book isn't just about like doing numbers and selling the book. It's actually a lead magnet to your business. And like you said, you didn't know people would find you for that through that. When did you drop that book? When did that come out?
Uh, that came out. Uh, it's almost been. Has it been about a year? Sounds like 20. Yeah, 2025. I dropped that, and then
Okay.
yeah, it's been about a year, which is crazy. Now that now you
Look,
said that out loud, I'm like, wait, oh yeah, you're right. It's been about a year, because I remember like writing it, going through the editing, which the editing part I hated that. That was the worst part whatsoever. Like I mean, whew. And but then once that got done and it was out, I was like, oh, okay. To be honest, I didn't want to read my book for like I didn't read it for like months
that's probably
until like an actual like session where it's like I was supposed to read it, and I was just like, and I looked at it, but I knew exactly what I was going to say, so I didn't need to read it. I could just like,
because you wrote it down, right?
right, exactly. So,
No.
but yeah, 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 I didn't realize that that was really a helpful way to bring in people, and actually another way to talk about therapy without talking about it, and also sometimes a less expensive way. Because sometimes, you go into therapy, you have like a copay of like 20, 30, 40, some like whatever dollars. Like a book is like, you got it. Boom.
Yep.
It's like you can read it, read over again, watch additional content to get more information, or see me. But like it just brings therapy in even a much more like inexpensive way, which is what I like about it.
Man, I love that. I love that for you. I love that for anybody who reads. Is it because most people don't read enough, and then you reading fast forwards a lot of things. So I'm glad you're able to. I'm glad you're able to spot that that is just a different way to get therapy. Right? You could just read about it and learn the 101 lessons and skills that you taught in your book. How long did it take you to write it?
It felt like a long time. I will say having like taking like ADHD medication was helpful, because before I wasn't. Then I took some. I was like, oh wait, okay, I'm able to kind of sit down and write and actually get it out
Okay.
a little easier. So uh, I would say since I was diagnosed, actually, because once I was officially diagnosed, which I kind of start off there in the book with that. Once I was officially diagnosed, I realized I was like, wait, I was looking through spaces to kind of see if there's other people that have that experience, so I can kind of relate to them, because I was looking for that. I was like, man, I feel kind of alone. Like, am I the only one late diagnosed? Although as a therapist, I know that's not true. But I was like, you know what? I need to get some other people's feelings on this, because this is new. I need to process this. And then I saw no one that looked like me who was like who did books like that, who did ADHD books, and I was like, oh. And then kind of that spark came to mind. I was like, wait, maybe I should write about this, and then started going from there. And
Okay.
yeah, working on the second one, so we'll see.
Oh, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
All right. So I got one more thing to ask about this.
yeah,
Let's well that you mentioned ADHD. So and this I'm not being dismissive, but this is something that I see happen very often. I need a therapist. I need you, your professional insight, Jamal. All of the people who are self-diagnosing themselves with adult ADHD, is it them just being trying to avoid something that they have to do, or do they have? What do you think about it as a professional? Please, let's set it straight
yeah.
for everybody.
Uh, that's a great question. There are a lot of people self-diagnosing, and some of that may be true. I mean, I don't always recommend self-diagnosing. However, if you think that there is something there, it doesn't hurt to see a professional, and that's when you can actually get the diagnosis, and that's the important thing. Even when I wasn't sure, I was like, you know what? Like, let me go check, and I went to a place near Towson, and checked myself. I was seeing a therapist at that time. I was like, no, I need an outside opinion, someone who doesn't know me. And we did the assessments. And then they were like, yeah, 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 you got inattentive ADHD inattentive type. Um,
Got it.
that was eye opening because it was reinformed. Um, it was like, oh, this is what's going on. Because on the other end of the spectrum, some people like they don't want to get diagnosed. They're like, oh, everyone has ADHD. They say all that. And I get that because we are in an age where we get a lot of like social media thrown at us, a lot of dopamine thrown at us.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, there's also that feeling of like, wow, that's what that is because either either you can be labeled by like let's say as a child like either you can be labeled as ADHD and find out you can do something about it by a professional or you'll label yourself. And that's what a lot happens with children where it's like I felt that where I was just like, oh, I thought it was just lazy. It's like, no, that's my ADHD. This is what's going on. So I need to adjust the way I'm thinking so I can get around this problem differently because my brain doesn't work the neurotypical way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it gives you a name for it so that you can actually do something about it.
Yeah, yeah, and so just really quick for the listeners and people who are watching this, are there a few symptoms that would be helpful? Like I know it's probably different for everyone,
Oh
but there
yeah,
are some things that for sure, if they're compounded, it would mean that you probably have some level of ADHD. Correct?
yeah, yeah. So I would before we go there, I would say first let me like break it down what types.
Okay.
So you have inattentive type, hyperactive type, and combined type. Um, Hyperactive is more like more stereotypical. That's often caught in school very young. They're the ones that are caught the most often. Like, oh, they got ADHD because they're bouncing around the walls. They're just kind of like they're not regulating. They're not masking. They're just like I'm going to do all this.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have inattentive type, which is harder to catch because generally that child is probably not really causing trouble. Which I mean, and most aren't. They're probably doing well in school or at least decently enough because they can pick up stuff really quickly. And so they're not really seen as a problem. So therefore they're not pointed out for possibly having ADHD. Thus, that's why you have so many late stage diagnoses with ADHD. Even myself,
Mm-hmm.
I was an ADHD specialist and didn't even realize why. It was just like an eye opening moment. I was like, oh, that's why I relate to people with ADHD. Duh. Like, but I mean, I say that in hindsight, but at the time, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Never got that checked. Um, but yeah, so as far as like symptoms or things to look out for, I would say your better bet if you actually want to kind of see if it's likely, I would go on to psychologytoday.com. They have actually a bunch of tests you can do there.
Nice.
It will actually tell you if you're like likely, maybe, or like, oh, maybe you should see someone. Um, so that's a good way of just kind of checking just to make sure, because I mean you're spot on. Symptoms can like range. I mean some of the things that I do are some things that other people don't do. Say for example, I leave the cabinet door was open all the time. Why? Because I've already moved on to the next thing, and my brain's like I'm done, and I have to remember like oh no, go back and close them
Mm-hmm.
or object permanence, for example. I generally check the refrigerator even still regularly because I will forget that they exist, that what exists in that refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
So I open it, I'm like, oh, okay, I remember, and then I close it, and then that's all I need to do. Um, uh, let's see, something else. Time blindness. That's another big one. Um, Time blindness is it's kind of like when you can't quite measure out how much time it will take to do something. So for me, I have to have something like almost like a carrot stick in front of my face, like just remind me,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, like this is what I'm going to do this year. This is my goal. Um, so so on and so forth. So I don't forget the goal. Say for example, this year my goal for business, my goal is to buy like a Steam Deck,
Mm-hmm.
one of those Steam machines. Like I love Steam. I love playing video games, which I also do video game therapy for those with ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. And I want to get the Steam machine. I'm just like, oh, I'm very excited about that, and it reminds me like, okay, that's your goal for business this year. So how do you work to get there?
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
Hmm.
That's nice. Yeah, I'm familiar with. I don't do gaming, but I'm familiar because I like all the tech and the gadgets and things like that too. So that's cool to hear, and that's a good way to put it, right? You have a carrot stick to remind you, and I think we all can probably use that whether we have ADHD or not. So, what would be because so I worked, like I said, I did PRP, and I also worked on more of an administrative side for a mental health clinic doing like marketing and promotion.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
as a therapist, what are some of the ways that you market that are safe? Because we will always come up against,
Mhm.
well, there's a lot of gray area, and I don't mean that in like an illegal way. It's just things that
Yeah,
seem to be frowned upon when you're marketing or promoting for your services. But you can't just. I don't think that you should just rely on referrals and health. It's a lot
absolutely.
of referral based. And it's good enough to keep a business sustained, but you still
Right.
have to market because there are other people who are in your market who could get more clients and ultimately put you out of business, and we want to be able to stay in business. So how do you
Right.
go about that? How do you navigate that in your
Mhm.
business?
Yeah, that's a great question marketing wise because that's definitely been a journey for me because um I mean or the last guest you had that invited me on, Robin, like she was definitely helpful in that and helped me to kind of like to kind of see what to kind of do next. We kind of talk back and forth about business and what we're doing in our businesses and kind of like aligning and like ally ourselves in a business way, is like, hey, what are you doing, like kind of like almost like challenging each other kind of thing, like what are you doing in your business and so on and so forth. And marketing at first, using psychology today was a big one, but it's like, well, how do I put myself out there? One of the things was like sometimes putting my face out there doing a video. I hate doing that. I hate so like as much as I use social media, I hate it. I try to have it automated as possible so I'm not involved. So if you see a post, I probably posted it a while. I probably said it and forgot about it, and just so that it can get out there. Otherwise, I won't do it. So that's just
Yeah.
something I had to do for my own brain. Um, but yeah, so putting yourself out there. Going to networking events was helpful too, just to get
Okay.
to a chance to know other therapists. Um, Using like networking things so that you can get on their list. Um, there's some stuff on Facebook, for example, like where people are asking for like in search of this type of therapist. I may respond and like give my website. I may do that.
Got you.
What I will say is probably that I like the most is actually just promoting the book instead, because it kind of leads me back. Yeah, it just the book is
There
the
you go.
easiest one because I'm just like it doesn't always have my face there, so I don't have that like, oh God, I'm putting my face out there kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's also, I'm not saying to go to therapy, but hey, if you have ADHD, here you go.
Yep. Yep. Is it okay if I jump in and suggest something?
Absolutely,
Now that
yeah,
I thought about it, so as you were talking about that, a lot of people say they don't like being on camera, and it's understandable because most of us were not raised on camera, right?
yeah,
And just
yeah,
we're not all immune to being on it. We're not public speaking is the biggest fear. So, but for people who have professional services like you, and you don't want to be on camera, writing about it and finding platforms to share what you write, and then like blogging sounds so old school, but like you could use LinkedIn, you could use a newsletter or something like that. You need some kind of top of funnel thing, but because you already have a book, you can just extract parts of your book and
yeah.
share that, and that could be a part of, like you could do it weekly, you can do it monthly, you could do it whatever works. You could do it daily and just do like bite-sized pieces of your book, and then you have consistent content and you don't have to show up. Also,
Hey,
I think that that works for you. And this is me because I told you I work for another company, and
yeah,
we
yeah.
we were working on some of these ideas. We did a lot more visual stuff, but in your case, when you have these like sound bites and quotables, your clients can see your brain, and that is the thing that they want from you. They want your mind. So
Right.
visual is important. It speeds up the relationship and like your likability, know, like, and trust. But your value to all your patients, all your clients, and all your partnerships is that Jamal knows his stuff. Like, and it's easy to see his thought process. So written content, nothing's wrong with everything starts with written content. Even videos
Yeah,
got to get scripted, right? So that would just be
right.
my suggestion. Like, you already did the heavy lifting because you got a book. You can just
Yeah.
pull from that, pop out some quotes, then you can drop them on LinkedIn, whatever platforms work for you. Do you have a blog attached to your website?
That's a good idea. Actually, I don't. I didn't even know you could do blog on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so on LinkedIn you can do articles, and then you can do your own newsletter. So whenever somebody subscribes or follows you, they will automatically be pushed. Like if you post in your newsletter, it automatically gets pushed to all of your connections on LinkedIn. And
Okay,
it's not the sexiest thing, but it's a
fair.
place where your knowledge is published online, and you can always just send some people to it. so it could be really helpful. But I just thought I would share that because you have a book, and I just admire that because I've been thinking about like, do I want to write a book and what do I want to write it about? But talking to other authors, especially black men, it's like it's make me feel good. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought that we should say that.
And you should, and like if thank you for that. But like that's some good ideas. I'm gonna have to actually. I mean, I'm starting to like visualize how to do it. I'm like, ooh, I could do this. Like, this is the creative ADHD side coming out of me. I'm like, ooh, I can do this, this, this. But that's a good idea. Thank you first, and
Sure.
then secondly for you, like, absolutely, yeah, you should definitely do books. Like we need more black men authors. We
Yeah,
just do.
I think
It,
so too, man.
it's a desert out there. When I was looking for that for ADHD, I was just like, where? Like, and I was just like, oh shoot, I might have to be that person.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. That it's
yeah.
the representation. Just like so last
Mm.
week, and this is last week. So I listened to a lot of lo-fi and instrumental music to
Oh,
do work
nice.
to, right? And some of it is like electronic lo-fi, and some days it's like jazz and like coffee shop style. But I do it on YouTube, and then YouTube is they have something playing, and there's very few like black visuals for that, black male visuals, and so you look up say like R&B grooves or something like that.
Yeah.
It's always women. Now the songs may be
Mm.
songs that we know and like, but the illustrations are mostly of women or the AI generated visual that they have maybe of women. And then on the other
Yeah.
side, and nothing wrong with like when we see like white guys or white models, or it's not the music is still good, but because
Yeah.
you're playing it on YouTube, the opportunity is there to be there for us if that's the kind of music we listen to. Right? If you listen to on Spotify or something, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
but everybody uses YouTube for something or another, and it's just helpful. But like you said, the representation is there, and so even if it's a smaller segment, it'll draw in more people because now we feel comfortable. Like you said, we have a safe space. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'm glad we got to share that. So
Yeah.
as we um as we wrap up, I want you to tell me two things. One, we already know you got the Steam Deck coming, right? How do you plan?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you see your business growing in the next year or three? Something like that, like a little 3 year time slot. And then also, how is it that your approach to therapy is different? Like we know what you specialize in, but fundamentally, what's different about Jamal and doing therapy with Jamal versus maybe anybody else in the field?
Yeah. Sure. Um, I would say over the next like year, 3 years, where I'm really hoping is to really kind of expand some of those like avenues to actually reach people. I mean, speaking of music, I mean, I'm in a band. Like
Oh, nice.
we actually did some lo-fi music recently. We just released like we weren't even gonna release it originally, but I mean, but we were working on it. We're like, well, we might as well release this stuff. I mean, I know we got our stuff on Spotify, but like, let's just release it and make it like lo-fi. Because I mean, I was like, I'll just use it in the background or something. And they're like, all right, cool, let's do it. So yeah, just recently did that, and I was gonna say that's another self-care thing for me. Music, love music.
Okay, gotcha.
Sing, play guitar, a bunch of other instruments as well, but those are my main favorite ones. Um, but yeah, I would say using more platforms. I'm gonna try out some different things to see if I can reach out in different ways. For example, one of the big ideas I was talking to my wife about this year was like using Twitch and specifically doing like more video game therapy based stuff because
Mm-hmm.
as far as I'm aware, I'm the only like video game therapist in Maryland, besides one other person, but
Mm-hmm.
she does like Dungeons and Dragons, which she's fantastic. Um, I think she was like a magazine of something for D&D because I'm like she's a beast, but she does the physical stuff. I'm not so great at being a DM, but like I mean I can do it, but I'm like she's really good at it. So I stuck more with like video games, and so I think the plan is basically to kind of use that platform, like play some games and show like what am I doing? What executive functioning skill am I working on? Maybe
Man,
I'm working on working memory, and then like you can see how I'm working on it. You can see exactly how I'm doing it, and then if you want to practice that yourself without any direction, that's a safe way to practice it. Absolutely. Which is also a great way, something I can give to like, our therapists can take to like give to their clients. It's like here's a therapy assignment. Like try like if you want to work on your working memory, try this. So, like one thing is segmenting, like counting like what you're doing, in order. That way you're not distracted because the thing with ADHD is like it's almost like unfiltered. Neurotypical person can just kind of focus. Neurodivergent person's getting everything all at once. And doing that can actually help ground you and keep you moving forward. One in the game, which actually improve your score, and also keep you focused on what you're doing. Um, but yeah, I use that a lot with clients, and I'm like, this maybe could be a way to reach some more people, maybe some more video game people, kind of get out more in that community. That's why I was going to use some of that lo-fi. I was just like, oh, that's actually perfect, like good timing, that we can just kind of kind of release this, just like dump this album out. So yeah, but yeah, um, that's the plan. 1 to 3 years. I'm hoping to, like, at least this year, hoping to do some more of that. Um, you know, more spaces to kind of get out and reach people within the next 3 years. And then, as far as what sets me apart from other people, the thing I think for me, what I think sets me apart, even in the book, is the authenticity. I try to be as real as possible, but not just real, but vulnerable. Um, and I like one of the best compliments I got on the book was like that someone mentioned that the vulnerability there, and I really appreciated that because I know for black men it's not always safe to be vulnerable. It
Yeah.
doesn't always feel like you can have that safe space to do it. Um, but in order to really sometimes create that space, you have to first be vulnerable. Kind of like in a group setting. If you ever been to group therapy before, sometimes it's like sometimes that first person just sets the tone, and then it's deep for everyone. Everyone's just like, you know what? Maybe I'll be vulnerable and honest. And I love it when that first person does that. And when I was writing the book, I was like, I think I'm going to have to be that person who's like open and vulnerable about this to set this
Nice.
tone. So yeah, that's what I think because I can like it's that vulnerability, and I think that's the people can connect with that on an emotional level and vibe with that
Yeah.
versus what I'm just saying. Um, Words come and go, but like if you can vibe, like you can just vibe. You can it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, don't get me like I do see black men, but I do also see men from other races, and they'll see it sometimes like just vibe and like I get where you're coming from. You see what I'm feeling. You see me you see me being over adapted. You see me being an overachiever. You saw through my guys. Like I had success in my mind, but now I'm like, oh, that's just a mask, and
Right.
here's the real me. So that's what I think really sets me apart, and then I'm willing to do that and have those candid and honest conversations with people.
Got you. Got you. Well, listen, I can see you blowing up on Twitch, man, because that's a really innovative way to connect. And just from a business standpoint, when they talk about teaching or serving one to many, like you can have a crazy Twitch channel and have a lot of people like getting therapy all at one time, and then you can get paid through that. So this is not to take advantage of anybody, but that's a part of the business. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I think that's a really innovative idea. I hope that you definitely make that happen. It's going to be way much easier once you get the Steam Deck, and tell everybody where they can find you, what your website is, and how you would like them to contact you.
Sure, yeah. The best way is www.simmonsmentalhealth.com. That's the best way to see me, reach me. Um, I even have like a free playlist on there if you like want some like just playlist music, just to kind of relax and kind of like get into and kind of feel. Let's see. Reach out to me if you see me as a therapist. Um, I'm on all like TikTok, Instagram. Um, let's see, Facebook. I mean, I'm on Twitter. I'm on most things. You look up Simmons
Okay,
Mental Health or
got you.
ADHD Life Skills 101. Like you'll find me. That's a handle somewhere. I just don't remember off the top of my head. But
Okay,
if you find me on if you go on the website, like I think I have all the social media handles on there. So yeah.
got you, got you.
So yeah,
Well,
feel free follow like help support. I mean anything that could help get this out to men. Like great. That's the goal.
there you go. There you go. And so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna link the website in the description. So all of the gentlemen out there that are listening, you can go there. You can get the playlist. You can actually book therapy as well, and just get in touch with Jamal and find out what's going on and where you can get help if you need it. Jamal, I really appreciate your time. This was a great episode. I feel like I learned a lot, and I can't promise I'm gonna be on the video games, but it's therapeutic, so I'll be able to check.
Yes.
You know
Oh,
what? I'm lying. I'm lying. I watch Street Fighter gameplay.
nice.
I watch
Nice,
Street Fighter
nice.
gameplay. So there it is.
Oh
You
yeah.
being vulnerable and sharing that. That's what you're into. You just reminded me. Like I was just watching last night some new character named Alex. So I watched Street Fighter gameplay. So
Oh, wait, new
there it is.
character? Okay, okay, I have to
Yeah,
check them out. Okay.
yeah, for Street Fighter Six. So there it is, guys. I'm your proof that what Jamal is talking about is true, man. Video game therapy is very helpful. But thanks a lot. I really appreciate
Yeah.
you reaching out, and I'm glad we were able to get this episode done.
Yeah, and thank you so much. I learned quite a bit too. I mean, hey, I wrote down some of the stuff that you were talking about. I'm like, ooh, I need to do that. Get myself
Yep.
together to advertise even more and advertise even better. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
awesome.
All right.